Hey everyone, it is Wednesday, January 16th, 2013. It is about quarter after 2 a.m. Right off the bat, I'll point out that I'm wearing a headset, obviously. I have a new laptop here, so I found out just a little bit ago that the microphone and the onboard microphone is pretty terrible. I was testing it out. It sounded like I was talking upstairs. So I just got my mic from my Xbox over here. Get that out of the way. What I'm going to be talking about in this video is a little bit different from my other videos. I guess my last two videos have been pretty unique. I started out these videos just talking about economics pretty strictly. This video will be about ethics and the politics of ethics. And I think some of you might find it a little bit interesting despite having a general knowledge of ethics in general. Did I say general twice? Yeah, I did. What are the three most basic principles of ethics? Do not murder, do not assault, do not steal. Those are the three most basic that I can think of. So I'll be taking a page out of philosopher Stefan Molyneux's book when talking about ethics here. There are always two aspects of ethics that have permeated since the experiment of ethics, which we can put at about 2,500 years ago, Socrates, 415 BC. The first aspect is no secret. It is universality. I like football. It doesn't mean everyone has to. It's a claim, but it's not a universal claim. In a system of ethics, it applies to everyone. It's a morally obliged standard we all must follow. So the number one claim in ethics is universality. The number two claim is the unspoken exception. This is what makes ethics truly dangerous and insidious. If I were a clever criminal, I would preach about how terrible it is to steal, how no one should ever do it. You will face eternal damnation. You will be miserable. You will be locked in a cage for years of your life. Your soul will be damaged, etc. But imagine you're able to make an exception for yourself. How glorious the rewards would be for your misdeeds. Of course, you can't call it the same thing. You can't say, you can't steal. I really should. You have to call it taxation. You shouldn't counterfeit. That's really bad. Central banking is sound fiscal policy. You can't kidnap people and put them in your basement. That's wrong. There are laws against that. Oh, I don't approve of the drugs you're taking. You have to come with me. If I can convince everyone that what they're doing is absolutely wrong and universally unacceptable behavior, and at the same time make an exception for me, refer to it as something else and deem it virtuous, that is optimum for me in resource acquisition. What kind of ridiculous society do we live in where a group of people can do which is otherwise deemed evil, call it good, and no one will even talk about it? That's the real insidious nature of ethics. Why is it that we constantly make exceptions for a certain group of privileged people in society to disobey these ethics? Even when it seems the government is practicing in something ethical, you would find that beyond its stated intentions, its actual results are anything but ethical. Post-Vietnam period, poverty was declining by 1% every year. Government decides we're going to run out of poor people, so we better go help them. Once the poverty programs, in other words, the Great Society, once the poverty programs are put into place, poverty stops declining, and people are far worse shape. The schools are worse, the neighborhoods are worse, the debt is higher, the incarceration rate is higher, the drug wars, inflation soars, therefore money is worth less, and so on. We're told that poverty programs are there to eliminate poverty and thus ethical. Please ask yourself this question. What is the real purpose of the welfare state? Be honest. First, it's to create dependence on government. Buy votes, give jobs to your friends, create agencies, give patronage. And it's doing that wonderfully. In fact, if the stated purpose worked, it would fail at its real purpose. If it eliminated poverty, it would have failed at its real purpose of creating government dependency, which is why it will never end. We see the principle of theft is continuously excused by a collective group of rulers since the inception of modern ethics. From the days of serfs to the king, to present-day tax cows, us, citizens, all working for rulers with a monopoly of force against us. So getting back to ethics, what about murder? Knowing we have failed horribly in regards to theft, how has the last 2,500 years been with the principle of thou shalt not kill? To answer this, let's look at the last 100 years of this experiment and see how far we've come. I know you're all familiar with the term genocide, the extermination of groups of people based on racial, religious, national, and ethnic groups. I want you to also be familiar with the term democide. Democide quite literally means the murdering of any person or people by government. In the last 100 years, democide not only passed war as the leading cause of non-natural death, but it absolutely dwarfed it. From the over 40 million people in the Soviet Union under Stalin, the over 6 million people in Japanese democide from 1937 to 1945, the over 3 million of Cambodia's 7 million population in 1970, murdered by Khmer Rouge. The 3.5 to 4.3 million Armenians, Greeks, Nestorians, and Christians murdered by Turkish regimes from 1900 to 1922, and the list goes on to Pakistan, Poland, Mexico, America, Vietnam, Yugoslavia, North Korea, and so on. Add all these government killings, and you have over 6 times as many killings by the government than you do war deaths in all of the 20th century. This is over 250 million people killed in democide. I know this is all grim stuff, and we've been conditioned to think that our said country, which ever you happen to be born into, is only in the business of doing what is good for humanity and its citizens. I can understand that view because it used to be my view. I recall telling people that America has been the strongest force of good in the world, the strongest force of good that the world has ever known. I grew up a Republican. This is why it's so very frustrating for libertarians, myself included, to listen to Democrats and Republicans repeating party line rhetoric without giving it much of a thought for themselves. Because I've been there, and I know it's wrong and ill-informed. I hate hearing my mistakes thrown around as unwavering fact. I hear people from both parties willing to go out of their way to defend people and policies absolutely regardless of circumstance. Currently, you see Democrats and Republicans going back and forth with policies of spending and war, depending on the party affiliation of the current president. We really shouldn't be excusing our leaders when they perpetuate wars and debts and offer no viable solutions. Are they that much of our masters that we cater to them based on the party whose platform they tend to preach? One interview from 60 Minutes that sticks in my head is Madeleine Albright defending the mass murder of 500,000 innocent children in Iraq via crippling sanctions and preventing otherwise mutually beneficial trade, just to send a message to the country. I'm going to play for you a short clip I'm referring to now in case you're unfamiliar with it.
We have heard that 500,000 children have died. I mean, that's more children than died in Hiroshima. And you know, is the price worth it?
I think this is a very hard choice, but we think the price is worth it.
This is the evil I grew up defending until one day I just said no. I'm not believing your lies anymore. I refuse to be someone that grows up a monster that defends the indefensible. and justifies politicians based on bullshit criteria they've conditioned us to accept as right. Cater to neither party. Look at history and see who has been on the correct side of it. Be a sponge and absorb all the knowledge you can and form conclusions based on what you know, not just what you feel or want to believe. I still have a lot to learn, but don't be afraid to challenge your own beliefs and maybe look into things that you don't want to be true. It may be difficult to go through, but in the end, the most liberating feeling you can have is that of understanding. First, seek the truth. Next, embrace it. Lastly, stand up for it. And that's all I have today. Take it easy, guys.